Hello everyone, my name is Nico Morey. Today is December 7th, and my presentation is on antidepressants. So why did I pick this topic? I used to be on antidepressants myself throughout my middle school and a little bit of my high school life. And then in the present, or not really present, but more so a little bit recent, I had to work to overcome my depression. And what I mean by this is, while on antidepressants, I kind of felt like a robot. I didn't feel sadness anymore, but I also didn't really feel happiness or any other type of emotion. So I decided, you know what, I'd rather feel sadness than not feel anything at all. So I stopped taking them, and I'm also pretty stubborn. So I was like, I don't want to have to rely on medication to be able to live my life. And in retrospect, that was probably not the brightest idea, because it could have ended up going very poorly, and I could have ended up getting even more depressed. But luckily it worked out, and it ended up being the best thing for me. And in the future, is there a way for antidepressants to be better? Is there a way to make it so that way they can make it so you're not feeling sad anymore, but also make it so that way you can still feel these emotions that you want to feel? So, like, still feel happy, still feel sad when you need to feel sad, but just not feel nothing. So what is depression? Depression is a serious mood disorder. It's not just sadness. For example, let's say you're watching a rom-com and the two main characters that were in love the entire movie ended up breaking up. And then that'll make you feel sad, and you might start crying a little bit, but that's just a temporary sadness. The next day you'll go to work and you'll be completely fine, and you'll forget all about it. With depression, it is constantly with you. You are constantly feeling the burden of depression. It can last months, it can last years, and it's just constantly with you, tearing you down. What are some symptoms of depression? Sadness, of course, is a symptom. Also, loss of interest in activities. For example, let's say you loved going out, playing sports with your friends. Now you don't even want to go out of bed. You don't want to do anything, let alone go and play with your friends like you used to. It could change your sleep. It can make it so that way you just want to sleep all day, or it can make it so that way you want to just stay up all night and just do nothing except for sit in bed and do absolutely nothing. It can also change your appetite by making it so that way you aren't feeling hungry anymore, and you might not feel hungry because you just don't even want to get out of bed to get food, which is making it so that way you're not hungry. You can also feel fatigued in some more severe cases. You can feel fatigued, self-hatred, and you can feel suicidal thoughts, which is the most extreme, and it causes suicides, and which is why depression needs to be taken super seriously, because of these suicidal thoughts and because of the result in suicide in so many people. So what causes depression? Depression is caused by biological, psychological, and environmental factors. A lot of people think that in order to feel depressed, something very traumatic needs to happen, such as maybe losing a loved one, or something just like experiencing something really traumatic. But that's not always the case for the cause of depression. It can also be caused by having deficiencies in norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. That's actually what happened with me. Nothing really traumatic happened in my life for me to feel depressed, which is why during the time that I was depressed, I was thinking, why am I depressed? Like, shouldn't I be happy? I have a roof over my head, I have food, I have water. There's no need for me to be depressed, but it was simply just a chemical imbalance in my brain. So let's talk about what antidepressants are. Antidepressants are prescription medications used to treat depression and anxiety. You can't just walk into a CVS and pick up a bottle of antidepressants like you can with something like ibuprofen. You would need to get diagnosed with depression by a doctor and then prescribed the medication. Because if not, then it can... let's say you're not, they just sold it in a pharmacy, then you could either abuse the drug, or you might be using it for the completely wrong reasons, and it can affect your hormones and your chemicals in your brain and make you actually depressed. So let's talk a little bit about what these chemicals are, or hormones. So let's start off with norepinephrine. What is norepinephrine? Norepinephrine is your fight or flight hormone, and it is also directly connected to your mood. So without these hormones, then your mood will be affected, and then it'll make you depressed. So the norepinephrine molecule right here, we have the hydroxyl alcohol group right here. We have 3 of these hydroxyl alcohol functional groups, and then we also have the aromatic benzene ring. Next, let's talk about serotonin. Serotonin is your feel-good hormone. Let's say you are petting a dog, that'll release serotonin. Let's say you're eating a food you really like, that'll also release serotonin. So it's kind of just your happiness hormone in a sense. And these are made out of aromatic benzene ring right here. We have an alcohol functional group right here. And then we also have the amine group right here with the nitrogen. Next is dopamine. Dopamine is your brain's reward system. So, for example, let's say you're playing a video game and you have been stuck on this level for a long time. You've been trying to beat the final boss all day. Let's say you finally beat that boss. Your brain will release dopamine, and it is basically like saying, good job, like you beat the boss, and it'll make you happy. Another thing that you might hear dopamine from would be social media. So with the software developers for like Instagram and TikTok, when you are scrolling and you see a video you like, you're constantly releasing dopamine, which is causing you to feel addicted and keep scrolling. So they base the algorithm to try and keep you hooked, try and release as much dopamine as you can. And without dopamine, then it can also lead to depression. So these are made out of the aromatic benzene rings, and then 2 alcohol functional groups. Next, we need to understand what reuptake is, because reuptake is really important when talking about these antidepressants, because this kind of this function is kind of what antidepressants are based on. So reuptake is when a neuron reabsorbs its neurotransmitter, which recycles and utilizes it. So essentially, it blocks the neurotransmitter. The antidepressants block the neurotransmitter, and then therefore will allow the neurotransmitter to keep sending signals of the neurons for longer. So let's take these SSRIs or serotonin, for example. So let's say you block the reuptake of serotonin. It will, instead of recycling it, it will instead, so because it blocks the recycling aspect of it, it'll instead keep it in your brain, and it'll keep sending signals of serotonin over and over again. So SSRIs are a type of antidepressant. They are called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and these basically increase the level of serotonin. These are most commonly prescribed to those who have a little bit of milder symptoms. You're still depressed, but it's a little bit on the milder side. There's fewer side effects, but one of the side effects that it can cause is serotonin syndrome, and this happens when you have so much serotonin in your brain that it can actually be fatal and lead to death. But that's pretty rare, so you most likely wouldn't have to worry about it if you are prescribed these. It's just a rare side effect. But anyways, these antidepressants, or SSRIs, have Prozac and Zoloft, and these are actually the antidepressants that I was prescribed when I was on them. And these are made out of the benzene rings right here, and then we have the ether functional, or the ether groups right here, and then in the Zoloft we have these 3 aromatic benzene rings. So for the SNRIs, these block serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, and these it increases levels of serotonin and norepinephrine in the brain. These are more prescribed to those with the more serious symptoms, and instead of the SSRIs. So if you have more serious side effects of depression, you'll be prescribed these instead. These are made out of an ether, an amine right here with the nitrogen, and then 2 aromatic benzene rings. Next, we have the NDRIs. These are norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitors. These are made out of an ester right here with the carbonyl group connected to the oxygen, and then a amine group right here, and then a aromatic benzene ring. Next are the tricyclic antidepressants. These work in a very similar fashion that the SNRIs do, because these also increase these also block the reuptake of norepinephrine and serotonin, but they are used less often because they are older. They have a higher chance of overdose and more side effects, and you're more prone to these side effects with these ones. So these are only really prescribed now if the SSRIs or the SNRIs don't work. And then in these molecules, or in these antidepressants, we have tofranil and norpamine, and these have they're identical almost, except for the tofranil has the CH3, and then the norpamine has the hydrogen, but it's still an amine, or amine or amine with both of these, and then an amine up here as well with 2 benzene rings on both sides. And lastly, we have the MAOIs. These I found the most interesting because these work they block the monoamine oxidase enzyme, which is responsible for breaking down the norepinephrine. I found these interesting because these are very similar to the NSAIDs that we learned about in class. So if we can recall, the NSAIDs block the COX enzymes, and then blocking the COX enzymes make it so that way they can't convert the arachidonic acid into prostaglandins, which is the pain chemicals. So without these prostaglandins, then it's blocking the pain chemicals, so then you don't feel pain. So it works in a very similar fashion. So it prevents the breakdown of norepinephrine, but these are used even less than the tricyclics, because of the chances of overdose and the chances because of the side effects as well. And the Nardiol is made out of these benzene ring right here, and the Marpium is made out of these benzene ring, a carbonyl, and then an ether group right here as well. Thank you everyone for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned more about antidepressants and about SSRIs, SNRIs, and DRIs, the tricyclics, and the MAOIs. I hope you also learned a little bit more about the chemicals in your brain and how they can be directly influenced and lead to depression. I hope everyone does great on their finals, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.